And yeah, basically, that's pretty much how you um, how you deal with missing missing data in Microsoft Excel. So I will show you in the next session how to deal with missing data in Python or in R, whichever one you guys prefer. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
What is R?
So R is a programming language like Python that you can do some advanced analytics in.
Okay, is it specifically for like advanced analytics, or maybe you can use Python instead of R or R instead of Python?
You can use either or basically, depending on what you trying to achieve. But in data science, we use both basically.
What do you mean in what you're trying to achieve?
So sure, this is actually quite a question.
Can you
So
maybe give an example of when you'd use Python? Something you're trying to do where you use Python, and then one where you'd use R.
okay, so an instance where you'd use R, you can use. Let me just put it this way: you can use either or, either one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm much more familiar with Python. That's where I do my my work, and that's what I use to automate most of the stuff in Excel.
Yeah.
Okay, so will you advise everyone to do away with R since Python is easier to learn?
Sorry, I didn't get that, Miriam.
I said, will you advise, okay, basically, if I've been going through our starter pack, right? And I think we deliberate much more on Python. So are you advising anybody going into data science to maybe stick to Python, or you advise us to just learn both?
No, I'd advise you to know both. Actually, it comes in handy.
So you're basically saying that there are functions that you might not be able to do with Python and R will be able to do it.
Sorry, Miriam, I can't hear you properly. Your line is a bit, I don't know.
I said, so you're basically saying that there are functions that we, or there are exercises or tasks that we won't be able to do with Python and we might be able to do with R, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I
So the
think
difference are in the functions
yeah,
between the two languages.
yeah, I think I should actually give a brief introduction in R as well as in Python, and have a section where
Yeah,
I'm
that would be good.
distinguishing between the two.
Yeah, that would be good. I think also just show that the subtle differences between the two, so we just
Show
can
the
know
what?
which one, the differences that might appear between R and Python, just to have like a view of why would someone choose R over Python, or why would someone choose Python over R? If I'm
Okay.
making sense. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
I think
yeah. You are making sense. You are making sense.
just
Okay,
to
if
add to, sorry.
Emmanuel, do you want to say
okay,
something?
So just to add to what you're saying, it's they both do the exact same thing, but they're things that you can do more effectively with R as opposed to Python. For example, if you want to carry out a time series analysis, you might go for like R for that particular task because it's better suited at dealing with particular tasks, basically. But it's the exact same. They do the exact same things, but Python is better built at some things than R, if that makes sense. Hence
Yeah,
why
it makes
you
sense.
would want to have both, like you want to know both languages ideally. So you can like use R when it's most effective to use it, and then use a Python, for example, with machine learning type tasks, where it's better suited for that particular task.
So it means we can actually use both languages to run the same task. Like for example, if I'm asked to probably build a model, I can actually do it with both Python and R. So how do I integrate the both of them?
How do you what?
How do I integrate the both of them? Okay, so I'm following what Emmanuel said, right? He's saying that there are tasks that are easier to do or that are more effective to do with R, right? So I'm saying, does it mean I can do the both tasks both on R and Python? You get just the same way we do web development, then we integrate them together. That's what I'm just asking. Does it mean I can do something with R and do something with Python and integrate them together?
I think, like Emmanuel said, I think it just depends on what you want to do. But there are some functions which you can do in both R and Python. But R is just specifically used mainly for statistical analysis. Um, and Python is just more just on approaching general data science approaches.
Okay, to contribute to what Sifiso has said, like Arrow, if you're trying to use Arrow, do more statistical analysis, like maybe trying to get mean, train mean, has a lot of statistical functions. Python now gets an upper hand when you're trying to go into machine learning, deep learning, data analysis, and wrangling. For example, there are so many libraries that have been built in Python for deep learning, machine learning, and lesser ones for R. So they all have their pros and cons and where you want to use them. For example, R has very nice visualization than Python, kind of. So, like Manuel said, for time series, you'll probably try to use R than Python. So they have their pros and cons. So, like you said, every programming language can be used to solve a specific problem, but what you're trying to do, for example, now you're trying to do web development. You can't use R web development, but you can actually use Python, kind of. So they all have their pros and cons. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Are there